Okay, so let's talk about January 22nd, 2026. The Nasdaq closes up 0.9%. And if that's all you heard, you'd think, okay, boring, another Tuesday, right? No, dead wrong. Because underneath that tiny flat number, the market was an absolute war zone. We're going to break down the two completely different stories that were battling it out. On one side, pure crazy speculation. And on the other, a massive strategic play that almost everyone missed. Let's get into it. This was the question just blowing up phones everywhere. I mean, traders, analysts, everyone was asking it. Because when you actually looked past the main index and saw what individual stocks were doing, some of the moves felt, I don't know, not just unreal, but like a glitch in the simulation. Nope, your screen is not broken. And that is not a typo. That's the gain for one stock in a single day. A one-day explosion that tells you everything you need to know about the kind of high-stakes, daredevil energy that's just pumping through the veins of the market right now. I mean, think about that. A company's value almost tripled between the opening bell and the closing bell. This wasn't some slow and steady climb. This was a rocket launch strapped to another rocket launch, and the whole thing was fueled by just a pure speculative frenzy. Honestly, it's the only way you can describe it. We're in an environment where fundamentals can just get tossed out the window, and momentum is king. Where individual stocks can totally detach from reality, just carried on these massive tidal waves of retail cash. It's a market where the bold and, let's be honest, maybe the crazy, can see historic gains happen overnight. So this really gets us to the heart of the matter, the big theme of the day, the two faces of the Nasdaq. While all the big, dependable stocks kept the index looking kind of stable, the real action was going down in two totally different arenas. One camp was playing for survival, the other was betting the farm on the future. And you can see that split perfectly right here. On one side, you've got money pouring into the hard stuff, the physical assets we need to build and power our world. Energy, metals. But on the other side, you had these insane, high-risk, sky-high reward bets on the tech that's going to define our future. We're talking two completely different mindsets, both playing out at full volume on the same day. So let's start with those bets on the future, specifically the ones we're just calling the crazy ones. These are the small-cap stocks that go completely supernova, right? They're driven way more by social media hype and pure FOMO than they are by any kind of earnings report or press release. This is the wild, wild west of the market. And here are our poster children for the day. INVO Bioscience, a fertility company, basically became a full-blown meme stock for 24 hours. There was no big news, no catalyst. Retail investors just decided to pile in and sent it straight to the moon. It's just a raw display of how powerful all this speculative money has become. And then you've got Signing Day Sports, which jumped over 60% just by whispering the magic word blockchain. It just goes to show you, the market is still incredibly sensitive to those future tech buzzwords. Okay, but here's the pivot. This is huge. While the crazy ones were grabbing all the headlines with their absolutely insane numbers, the most significant long-term story was quietly happening in a sector that a lot of people had completely written off, the strategic return of rare earth metals. So the big question is, why now? Why this sudden intense interest in rare earth metals? Well, the answer has less to do with digging rocks out of the ground and everything to do with the future of technology and, frankly, global power. Now look at these numbers. This wasn't just one company having a good day. This was a coordinated surge across the entire sector. Critical metals, America's gold and silver, USA rare earth, all of them jumping together. See, when you see a synchronized move like this, it signals a major shift in how investors are thinking. This is the smart money talking. And here's the why behind it all. The whole narrative has completely changed. This isn't just about commodity prices anymore. It's about national security. It's about supply chain independence. Investors are starting to look at these companies not as simple miners, but as critical, strategic national assets that literally hold the keys to everything from AI chips to the batteries in our electric cars. I absolutely love this quote from our source material because it's the perfect analogy. Just like rice is the basic food that sustains entire populations, rare earth metals are now being seen as the fundamental ingredient, the absolute staple that you need to build and power the entire AI revolution. Without these materials, the whole AI dream just grinds to a halt. All right, so let's connect all these dots, because the moves in big tech, the absolute frenzy in small caps, and this surge in rare earths, they aren't separate events. They're all pieces of the same, much larger story about the beginning of a whole new era in technology. Even the big, quote-unquote, safe tech giants that move the market were being driven by this AI story. Meta jumped because the market is finally believing in its massive AI investments. Tesla popped on news about its autonomous robot taxis. The core driver, even for the big guys, is all about confidence in real-world AI actually working. So what we really saw on January 22nd was these three different market rhythms all playing together at the same time. You had the steady drumbeat of big tech's AI progress. You had the wild symbol crash of small cap speculation. And underneath it all, you had this deep foundational baseline of the essential resources needed to make it all happen. So the key takeaway here is this. That surge in rare earth stocks, that's not a one-day fluke. It's a huge signal of a massive long-term trend. The market is finally waking up to the fact that this whole digital revolution is actually built on a very, very physical foundation.
And that leaves us with this final thought. For decades, we've all just assumed that the winners of the tech age are the people who write the best code. But as AI and robotics get more and more tangled up in our physical world, is it possible that the ultimate winners are going to be the ones who control the essential, irreplaceable materials needed to build it all? That's the billion-dollar question the market is just now starting to